As we said before, the main purpose of using ACT is to keep up with our contacts. And there are many different ways that we can keep up with contacts and many different ways that we can search through our contact database. And one of the ways that we've been focusing on so far is the lookup. But one of the things you may have noticed about a lookup is that, number one, lookups are temporary. When I do a lookup, I get information. But when I do another lookup, the lookup that I just did is gone. So lookups are very temporary by nature. The other thing is, for a lookup, I have to have a common piece of information in the database to provide for the lookup. But there are some times where I just might want to group contacts just because of something that I know about them that I may not even have in my database. So if we want to be able to group contacts, but not based on any particular reason, or in other words, we just want to be able to use our own imagination as how to manage our database, then we may want to use groups. Now, there's a difference between using groups and using companies. Typically, groups are just grouped contacts or combinations of contacts that have something in common. They may not be with the same company, could be with the same project, it could be that they like the same things, but for some reason I've decided to group them. And the reason I did is because then I've got a very, very quick lookup for that particular group. Companies are in some ways the same, but in some ways very different. So the first thing we're going to do in this section is take a look at the groups and companies that are already in our system and kind of see some differences and some similarities between groups and companies. So the first thing that we're going to do is, in this contact detail view, we're going to click on View, Groups, and Companies. And notice that we're in Groups View. And it shows us that we already have some groups that are in the system, such as customers, employees, friends, board members, prospects. These are just in our demo system. Now, we also, if we click on the drop down, we can see that we have groups and subgroups is another selection, which allows us to see not just the major group, but also the subgroups that are within a group. We'll take another look at that here in just a second. We can also look at companies, and then companies and divisions within companies. And so we've got lots of different ways that we can sort our database. I'm going to click Cancel here for now. And what I'm going to do is click on Groups in the navigation bar. And let's take another look at this. As we said, we saw customers, we saw employees, friends, board members, and then within that, within customers, we had subgroups. Customers Asia Pacific, customers like chocolate, customers European, customers USA, whatever we want, however we want to group these. Now, we can very quickly go to, for example, customers chocolate, click on it, and identify those people, those customers that have something to do with chocolate. So it's very quick and easy to use this groups view. It's very quick and easy to organize it. Later on we're going to talk about how we set up additional groups, and it's very simple to do. But this is the groups view. Notice that over here in the groups view, over on the right side, we have a hierarchy indicator. We have a group indicator or a group field, and then a description field, but that's it. But now if we take a look at companies, let's click on companies. Notice then that we have a hierarchy of companies over here as well, but look at all of the additional information with companies. Typically, when we use companies rather than groups, it's because of the commonalities of the contacts within the company. Maybe they have the same address. In fact, we can even link a contact to a company. And all we have to do is just make sure that we put exactly the same name and then establish the link, and we'll take a look at that later on. But the main purpose of this particular section was just to see that we have these additional tools. Now what we're going to do next is we're going to get a little bit deeper into each of these tools. But the main thing that I wanted you to see at this point is that groups and companies do have some similarities. As you see, we can very quickly move from one company to the next and then just identify those contacts that are in that company, just as we can with groups. So they have some similarities, but they also have differences. Next, we'll talk about how we work with and understanding more about group and company management. That's next.